Thank you so much, Mr. Rao. An absolute pleasure to be here again. It's been a while that I actually conversed with you folks. I'm sure there'd be a few people who've been attending the webinar series on a regular basis, and I hope you benefited out of those. Uh, and I think today's topic is very interesting because at one level, I think what shall I say? I mean, I don't think I know much about this. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. There are lots of fallacies, lots of things about this issue. Um, and why I make that comment, and I don't make it lightly, uh, my perspective is that there is no other way for all of you, for all of us in the business, corporate worlds, wherever we may be, uh, to look at our businesses from a customer's perspective. There is no other perspective in my mind. So I think I find it surprising that we continue to look at this issue as being a issue or a challenge or a problem or something that we want to achieve, because in my mind, then we have a very fundamental issue as to who we are, why are we here, what are we doing, who are we doing it for. Uh, Basic existential questions, which I think a business needs to be very, very clear about. Yeah. And I'm going to try over the next 45, 50 minutes to share my thoughts around this issue, uh, and hopefully get to understand from you folks through the question and answer session as to the challenges that you may be facing and any which ways that one could help get some clarity on those issues. So let me begin first by sharing with you as to who we are. Mr. Rao had some very kind words to share about me. I think I'm still a student, still learning. Uh, but yeah, I think a journey now almost over 3 decades. One has worked to really see what one could do in terms of helping drive business results with a very core fundamental understanding that business results will get driven only. I'm very clear there are only two ways a business grows. One is by acquiring customers, new customers, that is. And the second is by doing more business with customers who we already have. Uh, so at the core of it, our fundamental belief at Strato Results is, yes, you want to drive results. That's what we're here for, and we'll help you do that. But the core value system that we believe in is that there are no other ways other than the two that I've talked about as to how you can grow your businesses. So I think our objective is in Strato Results to help organizations drive results. And I think for those of you who've heard me earlier, you would know that I have this firm belief that every business end of the day is about people. It's not about the product that I make. It's not about the technology. It's not about the bells and whistles and all of those kind of things. It fundamentally is about people. So how do you drive results through the people that we have? And at the core of it, you have to have that basic understanding that your business is all about customers. We've had the pleasure of engaging with very large organizations, small organizations. Recently, we were engaged just last week. We were with a customer who's a total of about they were a total team of about 35 people, focused on a very specific segment, and they very clearly realize that they need help in terms of getting a perspective of how they want to move the needle in terms of the results that they're looking at. On the other end of the spectrum, we work with very large organizations as well. And our objective always is to drive non-linear growth. Some of you who already attended these seminars would have heard a little bit about this, both from me and other colleagues who've been part of this journey with CII. How we've helped organizations. There is a Hindu growth rate, which people my vintage would definitely understand how we used to talk about the Hindu growth rate in India as, growth being 8-10%, when the economy was growing 1 or 2% or 3% for a long period of time in India's history. But I think our belief is that, market share is the ultimate validation of our value in the market, my relevance in the market. So I think that's just working with a large global industrial organization, industrial automation organization. We've been doing this actually for the last few years now, every year helping them grow at 2x of the market. So if the market is growing at 10%, I want to grow at 20. If the market grows at 20, I want to grow at 30, whatever. So I think that's what their objective was. This was an interesting journey that we did with another client of ours. And I'm going to talk about NPS, interestingly, a lot today as one of the, I'm just going to use it as a tool to explain what we are talking about here. Objective is not to promote NPS in any manner, no, full disclosure, no allegiance or anything, but I think it's a great measure. I've had the pleasure of having used this tool set in my corporate life as well, and I'm a great proponent of this even today. 2 years from 19 to 57 on the Net Promoter Score, huge improvement. And I think the best thing is this is the true validation of what you are there driving your businesses forward. And then, of course, some more stats in terms of how we help drive profitability for an organization. Core of it is really about what we're going to spend time today. Very simple agenda. I'm not going to spend too much time on slides. I think my objective is to share a few thoughts and then really get down into a question and answer kind of a mode with you. But broadly, what we're going to try and cover, again, is really why customer centricity. Why do you need to be customer centric? And then, of course, how are you going to be customer centric? Some basic pointers, not a very exhaustive methodology that I'm going to be running you through. Some very, very simple, very high level views of what you need to be doing. And so that's going to be, getting to where we want to get to. But at the core of it, customer centricity is a journey. I don't think we can ever get to a point where we say that we're there. And that's somewhere the challenge in corporate organizations and in the way we structure our businesses. We need to be very, very clear on what this thing is all about. So let me begin by, on our subject matter, by sharing with you what the father of the nation, Mr. Gandhi, had to say. And I'm sure all of us have at some point in time encountered this. I've seen it in large corporate organizations. I've seen it in small shops. The whole plethora of organizations out there trying to generate profitability in businesses through the customers. And that quote is very simple. Customer is God. Now, do we really understand what that means? And I don't mean it in the philosophical, alliterative sense of, God. But when I said to you in the morning that when we started off about a few minutes back, that I don't really understand, because to me, that is the only reason why a business exists. Your business is not about making industrial fasteners. It's not about making pumps. It's not about making fixtures. It's not about any other product that you're taking to market. And I think our biggest challenge in this whole journey comes in simply because of this issue that we do not really understand why do we exist. Our existence is predicated by the fact that we have customers. A very simple situation, tomorrow let's say you don't have customers. Would your organization continue to exist? I think the answer is there all in your mind, right? I don't think. The issue is how conscious, how cognizant are we of that issue? Interestingly, Mahatma Gandhi said that about customer being God, but there's a great management guru, Peter Drucker, who says absolutely the same thing. A business exists solely for the purposes of its customers. There is no other reason why your business exists. Unfortunately, it starts to become a flavor of the season at times. Organizations, I'm sure all of you understand when I say flavor of the season. Um, Manager will come up, oh, this year we're going to be customer centric. Our focus for the year is being aligned to our customers' objectives. Oh, this is what we're going to do to create customer delight this year. Now, you've got to be very conscious of that fact that customer and customer centricity, customer delight, use whatever terminology, is not an option. It is really the only way you can drive your businesses. If you can't associate and align yourself to your customers, then you have a challenge coming up. The reason for that is very simple. Product, service. So, if I were to ask people, and unfortunately this is a one-way channel right now, if I were to ask you, Mr. XYZ, what do you do? Oh, we make industrial adhesives. Really? And I want you to think about it. Are you making industrial adhesives, or are you helping your customer, whoever he may be, deliver superior value for their product offering, which gives them a lifetime experience? Adhesive just happened to be the way that you help them achieve that. The very fact that we define ourselves by our products is simply because that we are comfortable with that domain. We know our product, we know our process, we know our technology. Oh, sir, this is the specific feature of my product. Oh, sir, our machine has, our mean time between failures is so much. Am I as a customer really looking at, what is your mean time between failure, or am I looking at how do I become successful? I here being your customer. And therefore, we got to start reimagining the very way we look at ourselves and our businesses. To me, that's where the fundamental shift has to happen, that we stop identifying ourselves with the product or market offering we take, but we start aligning ourselves and identifying ourselves with what we mean to the customer. What is it that I'm solving for him? What is it that I'm doing for him? What is it that I will do to make him successful in his own endeavors? Remember, end of the day, nobody is interested really in buying from you. Everyone's interested in being successful in what he's doing. I will get you to turn this thing around on its head and start saying that if I am a customer, what is it that I want to see? And that should start telling you that, do you want somebody to come and tell me that, listen, we imported this new equipment from Germany, and now our fasteners are of superior quality. The tensile strength and the material resilience is much better. Or do you want him to come and tell you how can he make you more successful in your business? It's not his responsibility in that sense of saying that, he has his business and you have your business. But I don't think you can be successful in your business unless you're making your customers successful. Organizations who realize this fundamental shift are the ones who are going to create a huge competitive differentiator. Why does it become such a strong differentiator? Simply because products, services, technology, all of them can be replicated. Customer centricity is a mindset and is a cultural issue in your organization, and that is far, far more difficult to replicate than replicating a product. So I think that's really where we got to start looking at this whole paradigm of customer centricity. Yeah. The other challenge that often happens is that, we say, hey, listen, We are customer focused. The fundamental question there is, okay, so tell me who's your customer? Define your customer. What do you mean to your customer? What is the problem you're trying to solve to the customer for your customer? A lot of us will struggle with getting into the specificities of that. And I think that starts saying why it comes about as, flavor of the season from time to time, that we suddenly become customer centric, and, that becomes flavor of the season. So I think that's what you got to get at us at a very fundamental level, that customer centricity is not an option. It is not a flavor of the season. It's not something that we are doing because it's a nice thing. To me, that is really the reason why you exist, why you survive, and how you can thrive. So being successful in your business endeavors, the fundamental foundation is really about being customer centric, because you are in existence because you have customers. And I think it behoves us that we understand this intrinsically, right, in terms of everything that we do in the organization. And I'm very consciously using this word organization because customer centricity is not about, our frontline should be very customer centric, sales should be very customer focused, the services folks are not as customer centric, so we need to get them trained on that. You would be from different functions of this webinar. A lot of you would be human relation professionals, if I make an assumption. Is my finance team as customer centric as my sales team? And when you start getting a yes to some of these answers, is when you truly start becoming a customer centric organization. Is the manufacturing function cognizant of the fact that while I might be manufacturing, end of the day, my job is to create a different customer experience. Yeah, my job is not to do that. Now, unfortunately, organizations are structured in functional silos, and I use that word silos with great emphasis because that is where there is a big problem. We just identify ourselves with the function that we are in, and somewhere forget the big picture, that the function operates in consonance with all other functions, and it's only when all functions are operating in consonance and conformity with each other that you will create better customer centricity in your organization. So that is really what it is all about, and you can very clearly understand that I'm very, very passionate about this subject, and I think we unfortunately mess things up by associating and aligning ourselves with our roles, with our responsibility, with our products, and say, hey, this is what my job is, and I'm doing a great job. So I think the other perspective that I want to share with you is that, this is a very simple framework of what you could look at, and we will talk about each of these elements as we go along today. But at the core of it, you got to realize that, the world is changing. It is a very different world today. Yeah. I never tire of telling the story about the fact that, in 1998, there was a gentleman by the name of Joseph Pine who wrote a book, and it's a must read for all of you. And I'm going to tell you the name of the book, but interestingly, a lot of other folks have talked about the same construct. Most notably, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Alvin Toffler. Alvin unfortunately passed away about 6 months back, if I'm not mistaken. Alvin wrote very interesting books like The Third Wave, Future Shock, to name a couple. But their basic premise is that our evolution has had few stages. The early stage of our human evolution, Homo sapiens, was that of being a hunter-gatherer or a hunter-farmer. It was the agrarian phase of human evolution. And we went along doing that for a long, long time. We started with barter trade and evolved more complex methodologies and mechanics of trade commerce. And this went on for tens and thousands of years. Till about 700-800 years back, man finally figured out he could make machines. And that put us on another phase of our evolution. Industrialization, mass production. Mr. Ford came up with the whole assembly line concept, and that revolutionized what we did, how trade, commerce, businesses existed, corporations started becoming bigger. If you look at early stages, it was either Pax Britannica or, it was more military might that defined things. Corporations were still very small businesses, and the largest corporations were actually pseudo-political organizations or pseudo-monarchical organizations. Simple example being the East India Company. But as the Industrial Revolution came about and we started operating in a different world, you saw the creation of larger industrial behemoths. And that was great. We were all good. But over the last 3 decades or so, we've seen a huge transformation in the world. It's become a very, very different world. And in this world, what really matters is what you are creating as a customer experience. This is a connected world. This is a world where everyone is connected with everyone else by 6 degrees of separation. I dare say the theory has gone through an overhaul and now is possibly 5.2 degrees of separation. That's the last I remember reading about. Maybe it's become even lesser. This is a world where you can reach Mr. Obama, Mr. Trump, Vladimir Putin, Mr. Modi, who have you, by knowing someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows Mr. So-and-so. That is the whole concept of 6 degrees of separation or 5.2 degrees of separation. This is a connected world. It's a dynamic world. And as customers, we ourselves have evolved very differently. Yeah, I'm sure all of you would recollect times when, the thought of going and buying a coffee at a coffee shop for $200 would have sounded very strange. Yeah, today look at how successful Starbucks or Cafe Coffee Day or Barista is, and you're paying 100, 150, 200 rupees for a coffee. Look at how, the whole evolution of the multiplex complexes have come about. Single screen theaters are dying. Why it's very simple, because it's very difficult to create experiences. Not that it can't be done, but it's far more cost effective in creating experiences for our customers in a multiplex environment. The name of the book that Joseph Pine wrote was exactly that. It was about it's about the experience economy. That's the name of the book, Experience Economy. And both Alvin and Joseph talk about this thing that, we are now moving into a stage where we are all consuming experiences. And the story and the plot around the product is becoming lesser and lesser important. Product or service forms the basis of an experience, but it's not the experience. Yeah, the experience is a complete interface engagement that a customer has with you. Which is why I said that, if my finance folks are not customer centric, and there is some issue that you have about accounts receivable or accounts payable, and the customer is getting, following up, and your finance guys are taking their own sweet time and they're wanting some more documentation, or we are digging up the old records, and we know all the kind of stories that we listen to. You might have delivered a great product, which is of great benefit, but do you think the overall experience that the customer has had with you is going to be memorable for him? I don't think so it is going to be. And I think that's where it's very important to realize that the shift that has happened in the world means that we need to start leading very differently, and it's all about the experience. And I go back to what I mentioned earlier, is it about the front line being more customer centric? I think it's not. It actually starts the other way around. I think our leadership has to become more aware of the changing world, more aware of what is required in today's time, context, and also examine what we are looking at as customers. Remember, your customers are no different from you. They're also human beings, same flesh, bone, blood. Yeah, they pretty much have same aspirations, expectations of life. We all want to improve our position, get more resources, more finances, have more wealth, enjoy vacations, make sure our children are successful. All of us have the same aspirations. But somewhere when we look at it from our corporate hats, we forget some of these things. Yeah, we start looking a lot at the pure business metric and forget that this business metric is an outcome of what you do with your customers. In itself, you can't do anything about that metric. The only way you can influence your business metrics is by looking at your customers. So I think that's really what it is about. Customer centricity is really a journey which starts with your customers, with leadership understanding that basic thing. Now, I mean, I'm not saying you go to your CEO, your MD, or whoever, and they say, oh, we are customer centric. Yeah, organizations say, oh no, we have, even in the variable compensation we pay to our leadership team, there is an element that is connected to customer satisfaction, for example. Yeah, though I think customer satisfaction is an industrial age concept, but we'll talk about that in just a bit. But the point there is that, okay, how much of his compensation is fixed to that? Oh, they are in, X% fixed and Y% variable, and of the Y% there is, Z% which is focused on customer satisfaction score or whatever metric you might be using. Well, really? Do you think that's strong enough to start changing a different behavior in people? So we are not putting our money where our mouth is. We don't have enough skin in the game, because unfortunately, and that's the reality of this world, is at the end of the day, you're answerable to stock markets, stakeholders, promoters, and one of the most common languages we understand is the language of, what is the profit that we made, what is your EPS, and so on and so forth. Somewhere we lack the ability to step back and say, hey, listen, the EPS or the profitability or the share price is going to go up only if you're going to take care of our customers and make them have a better experience working with us, so that instead of going to the competitor, they come to you. And that's how your EPS and your stock value or your stakeholder value is going to go up. So I think that's where we are caught, and I think therefore it's very important that leadership starts understanding this. Yeah. I mean, if you say that, yes, 50% of my compensation is laid down on customer objectives, you just start seeing what kind of different behavior you will have to see, right? Now, it's also very important, you take my word, I've given you some logic, I've given you some philosophical perspectives of Mr. Mahatma Gandhi and Peter Drucker. Everyone talks about customer centricity. But is there an empirical linkage between company performance and customer orientation? Well, yes, there is. There is enough and more statistical evidence available today that companies who are better focused on their customer outcomes are far more successful. They beat profitability, they beat cost indexes, they beat, stock price growth, every single metric by a significant amount. So there is a business logic to being customer centric as well. Yeah, apart from the philosophical and the core essence of what a business is, there is a clear business logic in terms of driving the metrics that we are also very fascinated by in terms of being customer centric. And I think that comes about by looking at a metric that you want to measure yourself against, right? I mean, customer centricity, yes, we are customer centric. How customer centric are you? So what we're going to talk about is, first, that it's a mindset, and this is something that I'm using from one of our sessions that we did, I think, a fortnight back, which was about creating customer value. Because to me, creating customer value and customer centricity are very intrinsically linked. They are one and the same in a manner of speaking. But it's a mindset. It's about being focused in that manner. It's about realizing that everything I do in my organization, I'm going to take a customer's view, a customer's perspective to it. It's not about what I think is going to delight my customer or make him, really feel special working with our organization, but I'm going to go ask him. I'm going to take a look from his perspective. And mind you, it's not too difficult to figure that out, Because end of the day, you got to realize aspiration expectations of your customers are no different than your own expectations and aspirations. Yeah, I shared with you just a little while back that end of the day, all of us are customers too. Understanding a customer's mind is not difficult. And I think that's what you got to start doing is start taking an outside in view rather than an inside view. And how closely do we associate ourselves with them, right? So I think that's really, it's a mindset. It starts with the leadership. And I think the other thing you got to look at it is it's really not about the soft issues. Oh, we have a customer help desk that we have created. Yeah. We have, regular training programs on customer centricity. Yeah, I think those are very nice things to talk about, but does that really transform into being customer centric? And I think it's perfectly fine to realize that this world recognizes financial metrics and you need to build. If you want to go around building a story of why your organization should change focus and become more customer centric, don't go with the soft issues, go with the hard facts. The hard facts are that more customer centric company is, the better its stock performance, its financial metrics, its costs go down, people are more engaged and attrition goes down. It has a positive rub off on every single thing. And I think that's what we got to be very, very focused upon. So one of the things is really how do you measure this out? And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I mentioned earlier. So how do you know you're customer centric? And like you've been saying, it's really not about my thinking I'm customer centric. It's about going and asking your customers, understanding them and understanding their inputs on what they are experiencing as work. I did mention a little earlier that, customer satisfaction in my mind is fastest expiry date kind of concept. It's a concept which is more set for the industrial age. Satisfaction and loyalty were great when this world was not connected. So let's say you had a customer who was sitting in Bhiwadi and another customer who was sitting in Vijayawada. These customers would never know each other, would never talk to each other, would have no way of connecting with each other. Or even if they did, it would take them to book a trunk call and wait maybe 2 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, and the costs were very high. Great, in that context, it was fine. You take care of your customer, make sure he's satisfied, you're meeting his expectations. And as he would buy more from you, he would become a loyal customer to you. In the industrial age context, unconnected world worked very well. Like I said, we are living in a connected world where every customer of yours is connected to every other customer of yours. Before you walk out of a customer meeting in Vijayawada and you goofed up, the customer sitting in Bhiwadi knows about it probably. Why? Because they are part of the same social groups, industry association, WhatsApp group, Facebook, they work together at some point in time, they have common friends. This is the world we're living in, and therefore, the economic logic or the economic cost of not being customer centric is huge because you are living in a very transparent world from that perspective. NPS is a great methodology. Again, I know I'm not here to pitch for Bain and Company. It was started by Bain about 18, 19 years back. And it takes into cognizance this fact that the world has changed. And if we have to look at ourselves from a customer's perspective, satisfaction, loyalty are no longer relevant tenets. And how this works is fairly simple. I used to be part of an organization where we used to use this as a lodestone. Our global CEO, and it's a very large company that I used to work where we use this methodology, so we don't think it's a small company. Our global CEO, at the end of the quarter, once the results were declared to the stock markets, and he'd come and do a town hall for the leadership across geographies. The first three numbers he would talk about would be customer NPS, partner NPS, and employee NPS. Yeah. We used to measure all three of them. Now, what is NPS? NPS is fundamentally a measure of how much is your customer promoting you. Now, this is a very tough measure because what happens is it's actually supposed to be anonymous. Nobody in an organization, barring the core team or a couple of people, should know who the survey goes out to, yeah, because you don't want to influence it. And the customer is actually asked a lot of questions, and I'm going to come to that part a little later. But your core score is determined by one simple question. How likely are you to recommend your company, whatever be the name, how likely are you to recommend ABC company to a friend, colleague, or an associate? That one single question defines your score. Now, he's got the liberty to rate you from 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, different approaches there. But you are categorized as a promoter only if you rate the company 9 or 10. These are the people who are telling other, hey, are you looking at buying that machine? No, go speak with this company, man. They are just great people, yeah. You know, with them, you don't have to worry about anything. Hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the guy to give you a call. I have the guy's number. 0 to 6 are detractors. These are the people who are saying, hey, listen, be damn careful before you engage with those folks. Yeah, you're going to make your life miserable. We had a terrible time that we engaged with them last time. Yeah, just be very careful on that. 7 and 8, sure they can rate you 7 and 8. These are your satisfied, loyal customers. And they don't count in this whole equation because your score is determined by promoter minus detractor. That is what your net promoter score is. So going back to the example that I was telling you about my own experience working with this metric in one of my organizations, we used to measure the net promoter. So obviously, you know, we were a channel-driven organization. We had a lot of business partners in the ecosystem. We would measure what our customers are saying about us. We would measure what our partners in the ecosystem, because they were equally important stakeholders in this whole business, and they were customers to us. And our view also was that even if people were to leave our organization, will they say good things about us? What are our own employees telling? Will they encourage their friends, colleagues, associates, their social network to, hey, why don't you come and join this company? This is a great company to work for. That was a level of importance we associated to the metric of measuring outside in perspectives and not inside out perspectives. Yeah. If you had a doubt, I'm not having too many stats on this perspective, but if you had any doubts, you will see on your screen as to how organizations which are very, very customer centric have delivered results which are way beyond normal results. And I'm sure all of you as leaders want to make sure that your organizations are delivering outlier results much better than all your other competitors out there in the market. So I think first thing you need to get clear is that A, it starts with the leadership, it's a mindset. And then you've got to measure it, because at the very fundamental level, what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. Yeah, so I think this is just a very cool methodology where it makes it so much simpler for us to get a perspective of what our customers are thinking about. The other thing is that what do you do about, I mean, how are you going to take this forward in terms of the fact that, how do you take the story forward? I think one of the key things you got to realize is that you got to go back in your organizations and talk again on the metrics, because it's not about the mushy stuff. It's not about doing the right thing, and I believe morally this is the right thing we should be doing. End of the day, a business is also supposed to make profit, and more profits and more value for its stakeholders. So go and talk about this in financial terms. Talk about it in a language which people, stakeholders in your organization understand. There is a very simple principle. I'm sure a lot of you would have heard of this, and I will never tire of repeating this enough. It's called the WIFM principle. Yeah. WIFM is very simple. It stands for what's in it for me. Yeah, what's in it for me? That's all that statement is. Now, if you can go and answer and tell your story in that perspective of what's in it for them, then you'll be able to take it. So you want to go to finance and say, listen, we want to put in this money in terms of creating investments and being more customer centric. Go talk to them about an ROI. Go talk to them that, there is enough empirical evidence to say that if we invest so much putting into our customer centricity and, building the culture, improving our process, making sure everyone is focused around that, this is the kind of business metrics that other organizations have been able to deliver. In our organization, if we are able to move it by, let's say, NPS by 5 points, this could be the potential positive impact on our books. Yeah, go talk that language. Because if you don't, then you are making a very soft argument, a very soft push for that. The other thing is, what do you do about this, right? And this is really about, again, saying that, how specific can we be, right? Is it really about, the NPS score, or our NPS score is bad? But like I told you when I was describing to you about NPS, is you actually ask your question, your customers, a whole set of questions. A whole set of questions about various elements of their engaging with you. And the answer to each of those questions has your action plan set out there. Yeah, I think that's really where you've got to go focus. So typically what I would do when we'd get our NPS results, we'd get the detractors. Since I was running, I was a very senior leader in the company, I would get to know what were the specific inputs that were coming in. We would actually go ahead and do something about it. And I'm going to talk about that in a bit. Yeah, that's as part of how what I'm recommending to you as well. And I think what works very well is not just pure numbers. Yeah, can you go and meet a customer and get him to tell what he is having as an experience of working with you, and go, take that video and go to show it to your senior leadership. That's when you'll start realizing what this all is about. It's not a number on the screen that our NPS is XYZ, or or this is what our customers feel about us. Go record a video, ask him, one of your customers who's dissatisfied, who's not happy, who's not having a great experience. And I'm sure even dissatisfied customers are always willing to give you feedback. In fact, the best way is to go to them and ask for feedback. And they will give you the truth. Maybe a little embellished. I'm not denying that, but they will tell you absolutely what is wrong with you and how you are making their life miserable. Yeah. So like it says there, I would go through every one of these feedbacks as to what our partners or our customers are telling about us. What part of working with us was not an enjoyable experience for them. And then we'll get to work on that. Yeah. The sad part is most of customer questions actually don't get answered. Yeah, so I think what you need to do is you need to do this across the organization. And like I was giving you that example, we might have delivered an excellent customer experience as far as buying the product, solution, technology was concerned. Our implementation consulting team did a great job of implementing the whole thing, and the customer started really getting the benefit of it. But we had some small little accounting issues that were to be settled off in terms of C form, XYZ, ABC, and it took forever. Now, while a certain section of the people in the organization might be all right and having a great experience, remember you created a detractor within your customer organization who's not going to be talking very pleasantly about you. And that mars the entire effort that you have done. We all know today that e-reputation is the company's biggest enemy. Yeah. And I think that's what you got to be conscious of. So go ahead and create cross-functional teams. Across hierarchy, strongly recommend look at management levels being involved because again, people do as they see their leaders do. Yeah, I just came out of a leadership development program which I was conducting the last few days, and I was telling them that the leader always gets the team he deserves. So the leadership has to behave differently, and therefore they've got to be part of this. Because if people in the organization see leadership sitting down on these issues, leadership talking about these whenever you have a town hall, whenever you have a quarter review, whenever you have any kind of internal meeting, is that the first question you are asking? How are our customers doing? Yeah, if the CEO, the MD, the leader starts every meeting, maybe just spend 5 minutes on that. That's when you're truly starting to become customer centric. It might be on any subject you're meeting, but do you spend the first 3 minutes talking about what are my customers experiencing today? What are the challenges that our customers are facing? Are there any customer issues that we need to go and address? You start doing that, you'll start creating a very, very different culture in your organization. Yeah. And I think you've got to be very conscious of this all the time. Then, of course, it's a great idea actually at times to get your customers in. You know, in a lot of different industries, there is this perspective of doing focus groups. Yeah, focus groups are typically done. I'm sure if there are folks on the call who come from a marketing background. Focus group studies are done before launch of a product and all of those kind of things. But how often do we get focus groups to come and tell us after we launched a product? How are they experiencing it? What is it that they find challenging? Not just about the product, but are working with us. So I think see if you can get your customers inside. Like I said, you know, a video. Why do we often want customers to come and talk to our people? I think that's a great, great, simple tactic which a lot of organizations don't leverage at all. And I make that statement with a sense of responsibility of not making a loose or a flippant statement. I think very few organizations do that. And I think that's what we've got to start focusing on. How often is leadership going and meeting our customers? Yeah, how often do we meet our key stakeholders out in the ecosystem? Unfortunately, leadership also requires that you do a lot of Excel and PowerPoint and all those kind of management and sit in a lot of review meetings and all of that. But listen, if you're not going out and listening to your customers, how will you ever bring about a change? I'm sure a lot of you have heard of these things, and this is actually a fact. A very large tobacco major, yeah, global company, India company as well, mandates that everyone from their leadership team is going to spend at least one day out in the field meeting customers. And remember, for them, these customers are the pan wala and the cigarette wala at the corner shop. Large FMCG company requires its leadership to get onto a truck once a year and do a ride, do a route run. Great practices for us to pick up and start embedding in our businesses. Because this is not lip service, this is really believing in it and believing that if you do that, your financial metrics will get taken care of. So I think that's what you need to do. Make sure your people are empowered. You know, my simple yardstick is if you say you're customer centric and somebody comes to you with a customer issue and your response is, hey, did you send that report that I asked you to send? Customer centricity is gone for a toss. What is the value? What is the priority? What is the importance you're associating to that topic? So I think that's what you've got to be very conscious of. And then, of course, there is this whole dimension of skill will. You've got to make sure that you have, and I'm not going to get into that tactical level. But you've got to make sure that people have the skills, the processes are aligned, they support the business objective, which is about creating greater customer centricity. You've got to do all of that, and you start building a culture where this is the most important value attribute that your organization believes in. And then you are truly set on your journey. Like I said, it's a journey, it's not a destination. It's something that we'll have to constantly keep evaluating, keep monitoring, simply because of the reason that you got to realize that as customers, we are changing very fast as well. And if you are not conscious about this, that the customer is changing, then the customer might have moved on, but you will still remain where you were. Yeah, I think you look at a lot of innovation that comes in industry and businesses comes actually out of really having a great sense of how customers are moving. Let me give a small example before we wrap my pitch on this one. Is that all of us love French fries. I don't think there's anybody on the call who would not love French fries. I'm not saying that how often we have French fries, but do we like them? I'm sure all of us love. Yeah, nothing is as good as potato deep fried. Yeah, and very delicious. But we all know that there is a big challenge in terms of that. And I think one company recognized, because typically it's deep fried, lots of oil, and it has to have that oil because that's how you enjoy the flavor and it satiates your palate, and that's what actually triggers your desire to pick up the next French fry and eat it as well. So these are addictive, like so. Somebody realized that, listen, this is a great thing, people like it, but the health issues are so much in contention, and everyone's very careful. And that is actually the reason why you saw the invention of the air fryers. Yeah, ovens, all of those are fine. Today, I think there is a big movement happening, and I think that product category has just started to pick up. Is in terms of, because that's, you just take half a kg of potatoes, use a small brush, and just brush it over on that and put it in the air fryer. And lo and behold, 10 minutes later, you will have French fries just like you have deep fried French fries. It's healthy in terms of the fact that you're not taking that oil. It's much more convenient. It's guilt-free. So even innovation gets driven when you actually start focusing on your customers. So if you want your organization to be innovative, first thing you got to do is become more customer-centric. Start understanding what they want. So I think that's really what it's all about, the people. It starts from the leadership, and then it's all about the people. And there are those intermediate steps that I talked about. You've got to involve everyone in it. And I think, please remember, there are lots of things you can do, but be very careful of focusing on the more important ones. Not everything that you want to do is going to deliver the result that you want to do. And remember, in this journey of customer centricity, especially if you want to get the rest of the organization continuously rallied and focused around what you want them to be doing, you have to show quick wins. And quick wins are going to come in when you start following Pareto's principle. But more important, are we asking the right questions of our customers? So I think that's really what I wanted to share with you. Like I said, I will not take too much time on this. I would love to hear from you folks. So please go ahead, and I'm ready to take any questions.